They were recording at night.
That's weird.
Nightcast.
I almost got trapped in my house today, man.
What?
They're digging up the sewer in front of my house.
I've heard. Like literally.
I assume there's gonna be multiple, because at some point they're gonna have to dig up the gas lines too, because they're also the same age as the sewer lines.
Oh,
and
boy.
I assume if the sewer lines are bad, also that means we have gas line problems in the future.
Ooh.
It's not what you want.
Public gas line problems went from theoretical to terrifyingly real. Do you remember about?
Yeah, the night of the live show. Big Live Show Live.
Was that 2010 or 2011? About 12, 13, 14 years ago?
It was September, either 2010 or 2011, because it was it was literally the night we recorded the Big Live Show.
I remember distinctly, like, kind of being done with the Big Live Show, and like everybody was like cracking open a beer and celebrating, and then like, oh, did you see this news from San Bruno?
Yeah, that's just over the hill from my house, you know.
Yikes.
Like it's like I could hike there.
That is like such existential terror that you might as well not even think about it, because it's so unpredictable and unstoppable if it happens, that we're talking about a gas line explosion. And
yeah,
this is not the cheeriest cold open ever.
No, but well, yeah, it was bad. They blew up a good part of a block basically when it went.
Yeah, it sure did.
But the sewer line was just a mild inconvenience. Yeah. So they were supposed to start working. Like, this is the kind of civic thing that annoys me, right? Because we got a note on the door like 3 days before this happened, and they were like, hey, we're going to be doing some work on your street. We're going to take up all of the street parking spaces, which doesn't affect us because we have one car. So I was like, that's fine. And they're like, if you cannot, run water between 8 and 5, that would be convenient, because we're going to have sewer open. And I was like, okay, so no dumping between 8 and 5, or
happy to oblige.
If you do, somebody's going to get the full view. That's fine. I don't care. And then they're like, but it shouldn't impact, like, you should be able to get in and out all the time. It's no big deal. And I was like, that's okay. That seems like minor. And then each day this week when I've needed to go out, it's been like, we got to move like 4 backhoes and a bunch of pipes and a truck. And I feel like an asshole. But also they didn't tell us to, like, I would have parked on a different street if it was a problem, except there's no street parking because it's Pacifica and everybody has too many cars. So anyway, I'm grumpy.
Prisoner in your own home.
Look, I went out this morning because it's supposed to start at 8, and I went out at 7:55 to move the car, and they'd already blocked off my driveway. I was like, hey man, you got to move the pipe. I got to get out.
That's just uncouth.
Yeah. Like, you're 5 minutes early. It's fine, whatever, but move the fucking pipe. I don't want to hear anything about it.
Man, yeah. No water between 8 and 5. That's kind of a tall order, I think. But
well, I mean, I guess specifically it's don't put anything in the sewer between 8 and 5.
I see.
So, like, I took a shower. I flushed the toilet.
Okay.
I sent him a gift.
I see. Well,
I expressed my displeasure the only way I know how, with feces. Welcome to Brad and Will Made a Tech Pod. I'm Will.
I'm Brad.
Yeah, that's a hell of a cold open, huh?
That's right. That's
This is nighttime. This is Tech Pod after dark.
Things get weird after dark around here. Very appropriate. Tomorrow's Halloween, so very appropriate that we're recording at night.
It is. I think when I was walking back from PC World today, I took Bart home, which I don't often do because it's kind of a hike from their office to the Bart station. But I think I saw a basketball team leaving that hotel on 2nd Street, at the end of 2nd Street, and going down 2nd to go to the Chase Stadium, because like they had a whole police cavalcade, and then it was a bus, like a charter bus.
We're talking like a professional basketball team?
I would assume if they're playing the Warriors, it was a professional basketball team.
Okay.
I don't know who. Let me see if there's a Warriors game tonight, and I'll tell you
who
high school
team or something.
High school teams don't have charter buses.
Yes, I know. They get the activity bus.
Yeah, I mean, look, you get the school bus. The windows are all down. There's kids hanging out the windows. The whole things are on. Wednesday, October 30th at 7 p.m., the New Orleans Pelicans play the Warriors in San Francisco at home.
You sure that's a real team?
My understanding is that their beaks can hold more than their Bellicans.
Okay, I shouldn't. I have nothing against the greater New Orleans area. I have just never heard of the Pelicans before.
I did not know that they had a basketball team in New Orleans. I will be the first to admit that.
I did not either.
Do you know that they have Wizards in Washington? I assume that's DC, not state,
Yes.
but I don't know.
I have heard of the Washington Wizards.
Okay. That sounds like a ABA team that got brought over. Some real bullshit right there.
Boy, it's a caddy on this podcast.
Taking the shots tonight, man.
Yeah, well, anyway, let's talk some tech.
Yeah, let's see.
I promise neither of us has been drinking.
No, we okay, but it is for us still. It's the second to last day of the month, which means we're still in time for Q&A. We pushed Q&A last week so we could get the straight dump from your trip to North Carolina before it kind of faded in memory.
Didn't want to forget too much. I think we covered almost everything. There were a couple things I flagged. Oh, power tools. Damn it. That was supposed to be the cold open.
Hey, Brad, what's the deal with power tools in North Carolina?
The one section we forgot to hit on the notes last week was the thing I was going to cold open about this week, and then we totally just did a different cold open.
We could cold open about it next week if you want.
I got to use okay, maybe we should save it then.
No, we'll never remember. There's no chance we'll remember.
I'm going to make a note of it.
Okay, put it in next week's show notes, and we'll be good to go.
Cold open topics are too valuable to just burn.
Look, can you imagine? Do you remember a day when we were so over burdened with cold open topics that we did an all cold open episode?
Yeah, we've done several of those.
This is probably the time when we should announce our imminent dive back into the ranking of software. I guess is the real thing to do with this.
I've got a ranking joke for this episode banked already. So
nice. Okay, perfect. Now put that in your pocket.
We'll get to that soon.
Okay. But yeah, this is the episode where we turn questions into answers. It's a week late because we wanted to get Brad's take on North Carolina in. But if you have a question, you can send an email to techpod@content.town. That's techpod@content.town. It's the town where everybody wants to be. Or if you're a member of the Patreon and you're in the Discord, you can go to patreon.com/techpod to find out how to get in there. It's $5 a month. You get the Discord, you get the patron episode. You get to spend time with Brad and me on the Discord talking about stuff.
Yeah.
And you can post in the question seeking answers channel if you're in there. So
also, I swear I'll be back on the Discord soon. I don't think I've been back to discuss anything on there since I got back into town. We're just kind of catching up on a lot. There's a lot of stuff to handle at the moment.
This morning, I thought of you because I was like, you couldn't have been on the Discord when you had satellite service only.
Yes.
But as I was going over San Bruno Mountain on an errand this morning, I had satellite service. I got the SOS.
Oh.
Like in the Bay Area.
Huh.
I was shocked.
Did you try sending an SOS?
No, I was driving.
Does that just connect to any number? Like, can you just send a message to a phone number as usual and it'll get through?
So there was a good conversation about this in the Discord the other day. And yes, that is what happens. You send the message to the other end. And if they're on an iPhone, at least they get a message that says, hey, this was sent via iMessage-satellite. Responses may be sporadic. And that's it.
Okay.
That's
cool.
The difference. Yeah.
That's cool. All right. Shall we dive into some questions here?
Yeah, should we do it? Just turn some Q's into A's.
Yes. Well, this kind of dovetails from what we were just discussing. Here's a question from Sean. Being a pair of good Southern boys, can you clock different regional Southern accents like folks in the UK seem so fond of doing?
Yes.
Also, did you modify your own accents when you started working in media?
No.
Just curious because I find accents so fascinating, even if I'm rubbish at distinguishing them. I don't know that I can. I mean, I can hear different regional Southern accents, but I don't think I could put names to them.
There's like a big difference between like a South Georgia and a Northeast Tennessee and a Kentucky.
Sure.
And like the further south you get, when you get down toward like Southern Mississippi and Southern Alabama and Northern, those all kind of sound the same to me.
Yeah.
But like North Carolina mountains versus North Carolina coastal is a wildly different accent.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like the sharp eyes are much more there for me, but I didn't. My parents aren't from the South, and they beat the accent out of me at a young age.
See, I've generations untold of my family have lived there, so
yeah,
I am dyed in the wool, I guess is the term.
You don't have an accent though.
Well, I guess that goes to this other question. Did you modify your own accents when you started working in media? I think it kind of naturally evaporated.
Did you? I was gonna say I kind of want to go back to like some 2004 era Brad videos and see what early Brad sounded like.
I think it's probably quite a bit more pronounced. In fact, I've had people write in and say it kind of vanished over time.
I can see that.
And there was definitely for quite a while, if I drank enough, it would start coming back out. But I think
can see that too.
Even that I think has maybe, I think it's just kind of gone ish. But actually, it takes like 20 minutes on the phone with my parents to start coming back, I think.
So my wife does that when she talks to her sister, the one that lives in Tennessee still. It'll come back for a few hours and then it goes away.
Yeah. And I started, like, when I was out there for almost 3 weeks, you definitely start feeling like turns of phrase coming back that you haven't used in 30 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see that. Like I used to work with a woman who said that he looks so mad. Oh God, what was it? It was really funny. He looks like somebody who licked the red off his candy cane. He looks like somebody licked the red off his candy cane, which meant he looked pissed.
I've never heard that one.
I think that's a Kentucky one. If I had to guess, like Eastern Kentucky. One
I heard quite a bit was that you would wear the balls off of a brass billy goat.
Wow. Which is like the balls of the billy goat's feet. They don't have, or
I don't know,
it's a testicle thing.
I think it's, I don't know actually.
Brad's leading hard into the tech pod after dark,
which is basically just a way of saying you were exhausting.
I can see that. We didn't. The ones that always get me are the very specific regional things from where I grew up. Like people would say chimney instead of chimney. And like like a thing that you stick into cloth to hold two pieces of cloth together, like that small piece of pointed metal, not a needle, but the other one, and a writing utensil that uses ink. Identical words.
Interesting.
I thought that those were the same words for the long time. Like when I came home from school one day in second grade or first grade, a new kid came to class and I was like, Mom, I made a new best friend. There's this awesome kid. His name is Jif, like the peanut butter. His name was not Jif, like the peanut butter. It was Jif.
I see.
But he said his name was Jif.
Is this a good time for me to get on my soapbox about the phrase, bless your heart?
Oh, bless your heart is not a thing you say in kindness and love.
Wait, are you one of them?
What? No, I don't say. I'm not a 50-year-old Southern woman.
Where I'm from, it absolutely is.
Oh no, it's usually meant in an extreme condescending manner in my experience.
That is exactly the opposite of my experience.
Oh, you were surrounded by kinder people.
I assure you, when my grandmother finally got to meet her beloved Richard Petty, and asked if she could hug his neck, and said "bless your heart" to him.
Well, I mean, that's a different situation.
I assure you she was not sassing him.
No. Okay. So there's context awareness here.
Yeah, of course. I mean, of course. But like, I see this all over Twitter now. People who are not from the South have internalized the idea that bless your heart is just a polite way to say fuck you, which is extremely is not where I'm from.
So I think when you're talking about Twitter is full of bad people now, so not necessarily a good place to source material. But B, I think if I'm talking to someone, if like my grandmother says, bless your heart, I think that she's being kind to me.
Of course. But that's exactly it.
But if a stranger says, bless your heart, then they're like 2 steps away from fighting words as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I guess. It's like, I mean, even my parents' generation, my family still say it all the time. And they like 99.9% of the time it is used sincerely.
Oh, anytime, like when I was invited to some kids' sleepover so that they could try to take me to church and save me the next day, I got a lot of bless your hearts, and those were not kind bless your hearts.
I could see that, but almost always with the older people in my family, it's either to express sympathy or gratitude. Almost always.
Yes. Yeah. But if somebody in the line at Kmart says bless your heart, that's not they don't mean it kindly.
Okay, yes, it can be used that way.
This is like y'all. The y'all like everybody's using people not from the South have started using y'all as a gender inclusive.
Yes, I've noticed
that pronoun, which I don't have any. I think that's great.
No, it's fine. I'm not worried about that one.
They usually spell it wrong though.
I'm not worried about that one, but I do see some people go like, I'm trying to figure out how to say this. But the attitude is basically like, y'all, really? Come on. Like, as if it's like insane or trying too hard to use a word like y'all. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
it's a perfectly useful contraction.
Yeah, perfectly cromulent word.
What are we going to say? You all?
Folks? I say folks.
Yuns?
No, don't say yuns.
That's ever had yuns?
No, that's a Ohio thing. Look, if the Gen Z kids have taught me anything, that said everything from Ohio is bad.
We had, is that a Midwest thing? Because there were definitely people that I knew that said yuns.
The kid I knew that said yuns was from Columbus, Ohio.
I thought it was
Cleveland.
yins. I thought it was yins that was more of a Midwest thing.
He said pop instead of Coke too.
Yeah.
People are weird.
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say we've taken that. We've talked about that New York Times thing where you put in where it asks you a bunch of questions about what you call things, and then it tells you where you lived growing up.
Yeah,
it's good. You should do that.
I think that thing was pretty accurate for me.
Yeah, shockingly accurate.
Yes. Question from Zach, real quick, before we move on from the emails. Listened to you guys for a while, and I've always been interested in Home Assistant. What's the best way to get started? Just buy the board and some stuff and kind of figure it out. I buy some stuff. I think he means like some smart,
like radios and
devices,
smart stuff,
plugs. Yeah. Light bulbs, stuff like that. Just buy the board and some stuff and kind of figure it out as you go. Or do you have some resources to get started with it? I am tech savvy in that I'm the one in my family, or the one that my family comes to for tech problems. But Home Assistant will be my most tech heavy thing I have ever done. Also, I'm leaning toward the Home Assistant green for simplicity at the start. Is this a good starting point?
So it's like anytime you're starting with the Internet of Shit things, it's kind of like you don't want to jump in whole hog, right? You buy one and you buy a controller and then you buy some stuff, and then you kind of want to dig in from there, I think, because you're going to learn things about how you want these things to work, and that's going to shape the purchasing decisions you make on everything else.
Yes.
And you're also going to learn stuff about how your house works, frankly. Like my house, like I would love to have smart switches in in every room in the house. But in order to do that, I have to buy really expensive ones because I don't have a neutral wire in my electrical system. And I wouldn't have known that. Like if I'd gone out and bought a bunch of switches before I knew that, then I would have had to return a bunch of switches. It would have been a big pain in the butt. But yeah, I think starting with the green is a $99 box. It doesn't use a Pi. The Home Assistant makes two pieces of hardware now. One is the Home Assistant Yellow, which uses a Raspberry Pi CM4 module, Compute Module 4. And then the green is a newer box that uses a slightly less capable ARM processor and has like 32 gigs of storage and 2 gigs of memory or 8 gigs of memory. I think I can't remember which.
So the green is just all in one. You don't have to supply your own thing to stick into it. Yeah,
it's an all-in-one box. It has fewer radios, so it doesn't have a thread radio, I think, out of the box, or a Zigbee radio out of the box.
Yeah, I think it was Zigbee. It also doesn't have,
which you may not need. Like the thing I would say is if you buy stuff like Casa smart plugs or what's the other company that makes the good RGB bulbs that I have?
Oh God, I'm trying to think. Is LifeX one of them?
LifeX was one of the old ones, but
they're still around. I can't remember who makes the common bulbs these days.
So there's a bunch. Cree makes bulbs that are pretty good. There's the ones that I bought were really surprisingly cheap. Like you can get a pack of bulbs for like $8 each. So you get 3 bulbs for $25. Don't buy Hue stuff. Hue stuff is really freaking expensive, and Wise is the bulb. Bulb.
Yes, right.
They do a lot of decent stuff. The trick is you want to get stuff that doesn't require an internet connection to work. So you want the Home Assistant integration that you use to be able to talk to it directly, which TP-Link and the Wise integration, if you set it up right, will both do.
Yeah, One thing I was going to say is like you're in a good position where you don't have a bunch of smart stuff already. Like, the whole reason I landed on Home Assistant was because, like I've said this before, but like we've got a bunch of TP-Link smart plugs that we bought on various sales. Got a couple of Belkin ones for some reason I can't remember. I've got some iDevices stuff that like an advertiser sent to us. You know what I mean? Like I ended up with Home Assistant because we had so many different things that we just needed one common ecosystem that would make everything work together. But since you're buying stuff new, you're in a position where you can spend time on the Home Assistant forums and see what works best, both for your use case and also just generally what is most compatible.
Well, and the other thing that's nice about Home Assistant is it lets you use things that are like our HomeKit or Smart Things or whatever, all the different, use Zigbee radios or use apps, whatever. It'll also let you have stuff, use your stuff out to other services. So for example, if you use an iPhone and your partner uses an Android phone, you can hook both of those up so that you can each use the native implementation on the devices where they make sense.
Right.
If you have a bunch of like Google smart screens and Apple audio speakers, you can use the Google smart screens to control. You can use the Google smart screens. This is really hard to say.
It's a mouthful.
You can use the Google smart screens to control stuff and pipe music out to the Apple speakers, and it all just works.
Yeah.
And that's the powerful thing about Home Assistant. That's why you fool with Home Assistant instead of just doing Smart Thing or using the Alexa integration or using a Google Home app or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Prepare for a learning curve, though. Like there is absolutely like Home Assistant is not the most intuitively laid out thing where like a lot of the concepts are, like there are devices, there are entities, there are scenes, there are automations. Like there's a lot of jargon to kind of learn the difference between.
So I did a clean setup when I did the yellow install a year and a half ago. And I think that my old install had a lot of cruft on it.
Yeah, mine does too, definitely.
Like the new user experience for new users is quite good now.
Okay.
The most important thing is you want to run everything through Home Assistant and then filter it out from there to the other services that you use. So you don't want to like hook it up with HomeKit and then switch it, like run HomeKit to Home Assistant and then back to HomeKit again, because that'll be weird.
Yes, you want to add all the devices directly to Home Assistant.
I was gonna say the other thing is you can also just, if you have like a Raspberry Pi 2 or 3 sitting around and you want to noodle around with it, you can install Home Assistant on an old Raspberry Pi, like even a really old one. I don't think it works on one anymore, but 2s and 3s, which are like 10, 12-year-old Raspberry Pis at this point, will work. And like buy your $10 pack of 3 smart switches and noodle around with it. Set up one room at a time. When you decide you want to do it, set up one room at a time, figure out how you use that room, and then integrate that with the other thing, and learn how to use automations and scenes and like all of that stuff to get the home and away stuff going the way you want it to. But it's pretty straightforward.
It's pretty neat. You do a lot of stuff with it.
It's like it's all stupid in that it's not stuff that like is necessary. But it's really nice when I come home and I don't have to turn on the front porch light when I back into the driveway, because it just turns on, and the lights all turn on when I'm coming into the house with a whole armload of groceries. And, I don't have to I say it's time for bed and it turns off the lights, all the lights in the house.
Wait, is that really your trigger?
I say
it's time for bed.
I use I have multiples. I say it's time for the kiddos' bed, and then I say it's time for our bed.
Huh.
And I don't want to say the thing that I say because it'll turn off every light in the house, but
do it.
I say, okay, Google, it's time for bed. And then it turns off all the lights in the house and leaves the night lights on and all that stuff. Go away, Google, be quiet.
None of the lights in your room went off, at least I can say that.
No, I kept talking. So it didn't get the command.
Yeah.
But basically I have that stuff, like you can set that stuff up to trigger scenes and automations and things like that, which make it easy to like put your house in the same state every day. It's kind of like playing Loop Hero, honestly. Because like you want to start each day from a known state and you want to end each day at a known state. And then you have to get from that end of day known state to the start of day next state.
Do I know what Loop Hero is?
Have you ever played Loop Hero?
Have I not played Loop Hero? It sounds like something I've played, but like,
it was an indie darling.
Yes, I totally forgot the name of this game, but yes, like the game's awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool.
It's very cool. It's very hard though. Like
it's very hard. Unless you're good at recursive thinking, in which case it's not that hard.
Yeah, I think I ended up tapping out on it just due to the number of runs that went extremely bad.
It was the game that I was like, I wish this was on an iPad because I would sit and watch TV and play this all the time. But now I have a Steam Deck, so I should probably try it again.
Oh, did they never put those on? Yeah, that would have been a really good mobile game. The reason I forgot what it was is that the name Loop Hero sounds like some kind of Guitar Hero derivative.
Yeah.
But it's very much not that. It's like this kind of gothic fantasy roguelike sort of thing.
It's a game about using recursion to like do things.
Yeah. It's a very cool game.
A cool game.
Okay. All right. Let's do some Discord questions here. There's one from Crow. Have you ever used a Windows File Explorer alternative? Throughout the years, I've heard you guys complain about certain aspects of File Explorer or file management in general. So I find it surprising that you don't use something like Directory Opus. I've been using it for years, and now I can't live without it. Fun fact about it, it's been around since the Amiga days.
Wow.
It's still being maintained by the same guy, Jonathan Potter.
Go
ahead.
No, go ahead.
I've thought about this numerous times. The thing that always stops me, and this is a problem that now affects parts of actual File Explorer, is that there are so many hooks in the operating system in Windows to spawning file management windows. and there's no provision in Windows for designating a different custom app to replace File Explorer. Like, because there are so many other things that will spawn a folder. Like, I'm struggling to think of many right now, but there's all kinds of cases where it'll pop a File Explorer window up.
Like when you finish unzipping something and you click the open this after it's done, it always opens in File Explorer.
Yeah, that's a good one. Stuff like that, and those are always going to open in File Explorer anyway, even if you're using an alternative, because they don't give you a way to replace that.
Yeah,
at the system level. So that's kind of the thing that's really just stopped me from ever trying to adopt something else. That problem also manifests now in that there's no way to tell it to open those links in the same File Explorer window you already have open. Now that they have tabs.
Oh,
there's no toggle for that. I really wish they would add a setting where you could say open all new File Explorer windows in the same existing window.
I think that's in 24H2 now.
Is it really?
You can duplicate tabs in File Explorer finally.
Okay.
I want to say that I saw that, but that might have been something that somebody had on the list of things that they still haven't done. I can't remember.
Yeah, like opinions on that feature seem very split because I've searched for it before because I couldn't believe that wasn't already in there. And I saw a lot of people like on places like Reddit going like, no, that sounds terrible. Why would you want that? So it should probably be a toggle and not just a default behavior. But I really wish they would put in a just like anytime Windows needs to spawn a new File Explorer window, just if there's one open, just make it a tab in that window.
So,
because the whole point of tabs is to not have a bunch of extra windows floating around, but that happens anyway.
Agreed. I wish, I mean, honestly, one of the things I wish is that for apps with tabs like browsers and File Explorer and stuff like that now, you could just right click on it in the taskbar and merge all of the tabs into one window.
Wait, you can do that now?
No, I wish you could do that. That would be wonderful.
Okay, yeah, that would be nice.
I've never used these things because I spent enough of my life writing and like in helping people understand software and Windows better that not running the defaults seems like a mistake.
Yeah. So
I tried Files for a while a few years ago, which is a File Explorer alternate that's a kind of a up and coming one that's in the Microsoft Store. And it was fine. I had a lot of little problems with it that ended up making it measurably worse than just using File Explorer and sucking it up and dealing with the problems that it has. But also the loss of the ability to like know. It's like when you're making a game, it's always good to have some people on the team that use just default settings for everything. Because you want to know what that, if you fuck up something on that default experience for people, you want to know sooner rather than later. And it's important. I find it important for me to use the, now, of course, I don't practice what I preach because I immediately turn off the search Bing when you do when you do like start menu searching and stuff like that. But well, that's just looking out for yourself. Yeah. I'm just glad that they don't put one, the reason I switched to Files in the first place was the stupidest reason ever, which was that they put OneDrive at the top of the quick list, no matter whether you used OneDrive at all.
Yep, they sure did.
And it annoyed me so much that I was just like, I'm not going to use this anymore because I use that quick link. I use that quick list all the time. It's where I link all the stuff that I use on the day-to-day there.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
same.
Yeah. So it just irritated me.
There's probably a registry hack for getting rid of those OneDrive links.
It's gone now. Oh, 23H2, it's gone.
24H2?
23H2.
Oh, wait, really?
It's not on the top of my list.
Wait, I've still got mine.
Well, you got to uninstall OneDrive or something. I don't have OneDrive running, so that's maybe what does it. Yeah, you can turn it off now. I still do. I don't know why. Ugh. Just extra cloud storage, just in case. It's bad cloud storage. Yeah. Real quick, I've not used this. I don't even know if it's ready for use. I think it's still in alpha. Let me see. The Dopus? No, Space Drive. Oh. I'm not in the slightest vouching for this. I just saw this going around, I think, on Twitter. There's a GitHub repo for it. The account is Space Drive app. The repo is just called Space Drive. I'll just read the description. An open source cross-platform file manager powered by a virtual distributed file system written in Rust. So it's purporting to be like a common file management utility across Windows, Mac, and Linux. But I don't know what all this virtual distributed file system business is. It sounds like some like abstraction layer to make a bunch of different local and cloud storages all show up as the same kind of common storage pool, which I'm not sure I'm super into that idea. This seems like a bad idea, but maybe it's a good idea. I don't know. If you could ignore the virtual file system stuff and just keep exposing all your normal drives and everything discreetly, Wonder if you have to have all the devices on at the same time,
I don't
if it's
know.
dumping up in the cloud someplace.
Yeah, I barely have wrapped my head around what exactly they're trying to do with this thing. But anyway, there are like modern file management.
This is interesting.
Efforts going on. Yeah. This may bear a little more investigation, but I absolutely am not saying, yes, they are on alpha 0.4.2.
Yeah, they said they're almost about ready to go into beta, is what it says on their GitHub page.
Anyway, there is work ongoing on modern file management stuff.
Rust, huh?
Yep. Yeah. What about it?
No, I was just saying Rust, huh?
Man, I hate Twitter, but like every time I bring up Twitter, I feel more and more day by day that I should stop using it. Like I'm finding quite a few more people jumping to Blue Sky lately, and I'm really starting to think maybe it's time to pull the ripcord for real.
Blue Sky is real active these days, man, and a bunch of people I haven't seen in years are showing up there now. Like
it feels irresponsible even talking about Twitter at this point because it's such a fucking sewer that I feel like I shouldn't even like say the word out loud anymore.
Look, I had a Blue Sky post go kind of big last night, and you know what it was?
What's that?
You know how I know Twitter really is actually dead for real? Will Smith just did a home run in the World Series, and I didn't get a single tweet about it.
Interesting. All right.
Not one.
That could be a canary in a coal mine. For sure.
mean, I didn't know when he played in a game. I didn't know that there's a Will Smith who plays hockey for the Sharks.
Look,
these are all things I would have known before, and I don't think anybody's using it anymore.
Progress.
Yeah.
But the whole reason I brought that up was that my Twitter kind of For You algorithm for some time was getting infected by people arguing over programming languages.
That means that, look, so sometimes the machine knows you, man.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. There was a lot of people talking about Rust and Zig and C3 and kind of all these modern successor languages that are trying to be the new C. A lot of talk about Rust out there. A lot of strong feelings about Rust.
Mine is just people yelling at each other and being angry.
Yep, plenty of that. Well, that's everywhere you go now.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to another question from Xylotism. What's the tech industry word that you mispronounced for the longest or still mispronounce today? I've mentally locked myself into saying pseudo instead of sudo.
What?
It's sudo, man.
Oh.
And I'm still not sure if CISA is pronounced like CISA, CISA, or CISA. I don't even know. What is CISA? I should know that.
I don't know what CISA is. I was saying it was.
We've talked about this. Yes, it's the federal. What does it stand for? Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Agency. Security Agency. Sorry. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency.
It's not a certified information systems auditor.
Well, I mean, that could be what they're talking about here, but this is America's Cyber Defense Agency.
Or is it community involved in sustaining agriculture?
It could be any number of things, all with different pronunciations.
Yeah.
On the sudo thing, I have started leaning very strongly in the direction of pronouncing things in a way that kind of like implies what they do, or what they mean, or what they stand for. So super user do.
So wouldn't that be SU do?
Or substitute user do? I mean, do at least implies you are doing something. The command is going to do something.
I don't like this.
Like also, the famous sudo alternative do as. How are you going to pronounce that? Dos? Like,
I have multiple problems with what you said there because I don't think it's that famous. And B, no, thank you.
Anyway,
yeah, I don't know. I like to think I say everything properly.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess you yourself are not necessarily going to be aware that you are mispronouncing something. I guess, let's see. I don't have a good pronunciation for UEFI, which I think is a little too wordy to say by letter, but I hear people say like Weffy and stuff.
Is how we say it at work at PC World. But usually that's a derisive thing. It's a bless your heart situation.
Well, my real answer is I'm never going to say that at all. I'm going to say BIOS until the day I die.
I mean, that is like the right answer is that you pronounce UEFI BIOS.
Yes. I am going into the BIOS. I'm going to change BIOS settings. That's just the way it is.
I mean, when you talk to motherboard vendors, they still all say BIOS too.
Okay. That's very encouraging.
I like the Asus thing. Like I had multiple times in my life when I've been corrected by people from the company with contradictory answers. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Wacom was the one that got me because we always called them Wacom tablets.
Oh, I But probably until you just said that just now, I thought it was Wacom.
The preferred pronunciation by the vendor was always Wacom.
Interesting.
Which is a weird, like, why would you? It's like well, I was doing a thing about Windows CE. Do you remember Windows CE?
No.
WINCE was the abbreviation for it. Wince.
Oh, yes. WinCE. Yes.
Yeah, it's the base.
That's what ran on the Dreamcast, right?
Dreamcast, the Zune. It's what became Windows Mobile. It became Windows Phone eventually. But it started as their answer to the Palm. It was a PDA thing, and it stood for Windows Embedded. Embedded. It's not computer. Embedded Compact, I think, or embedded.
Windows Embedded Compact is what's coming up here.
Yeah, Embedded Compact.
Wouldn't that be Windows EC? But I guess not.
Right. You couldn't say it was Wince if it was that. But yeah, anyway.
Is that anything like Windows New Technology?
Yeah, that was a lot like Windows New Technology.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So I don't know. Tech acronyms are weird.
Yep.
I still say it's GIF.
Yes.
Final word. Let's move on.
I wasn't even going to take this question, but now that you've said that, from Helen C. Okay, but how do you pronounce .jfif?
GIF.
Is that? I assume that's an actual file extension.
No.
You know, it's. I'm sure I'm not telling you anything. It's awfully hard to Google for file extensions these days.
Yeah, you have to Google the file extension with a period in front of it and then put file extension after it, and it still isn't very good.
And in quotation marks.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're going to get... But even the sites that do address file extensions are mostly all like just auto-generated garbage at this point.
There's a lot of auto-generated garbage these days.
.jfif is a JPEG file interchange format.
Wait, really? It's a real thing?
Oh, yeah. No, that's a real extension.
Oh, no. That's GIF.
I mean... That is like the example of my my ideology around pronouncing extensions and acronyms and so forth. There's already a JIF, so how do you pronounce JIF if GIF is GIF?
It's GIF.
Nope.
It's JFIF though, isn't it?
No. There's a .jif. This is a totally separate extension.
Well, whoever did that is a fucking war criminal and should go to jail.
There is a .jif, and how are you going to say that if you already say GIF for the one with the G?
That's .jef.
Man. All right. These questions are folding back in on themselves.
Choosing crime.
All right. Well, here's the last email or question rather about letters and acronyms from Chip Shirley. This is a profound observation. Have y'all ever noticed that some letters are cooler than others? Putting RXT after the name of a car or a graphics card would be cool, but putting KLB or AFH would not.
I read an article about this a few years ago.
Wait, really?
Yeah, there's a linguistics theory behind this.
I have to read that. Can you please find that link?
It's an episode of The World, I think.
Okay.
Nope. 404 not found. Man, the internet sucks now.
Yeah, it sure does. I mean, this is not wrong. You're absolutely correct that RX. Okay. Like, what are the good letters? Normally, before, let's say like 2 years ago, I would have said X is a great letter, but not now.
Okay. So here's a Paste Magazine article. This isn't what I was looking for, but they ranked the letters of the alphabet from lamest to coolest.
That was my ranking joke.
We should totally do this.
That was the ranking joke that I had saved up for this question that I mentioned 20 minutes ago.
This is next month's patron episode. We have
found our next ranking, and it is ranking of letters.
Yeah. I don't actually know. I can't find the article that I read, but there was a really fascinating article by a linguist, probably God, I can't remember her name. The woman who hosts the Illusionists, which is a great linguistics podcast. I would guess that she linked it on Twitter like 10 years ago, probably at this point. But there's theory about sounds and what those sounds do to your brain when you hear them, about what makes some letters cooler than others. Like S is a cool letter because S is a good sound, and it's like it makes good brain things happen when you say it.
This is sounding like kind of a tautological argument. It's like S is a good sound because it's a good sound.
Also, it has the cool S, which is inherently a cool thing.
Sure.
Yeah. Kids today still love the cool S, man.
Yeah, I mean, obviously NVIDIA figured this out 20 plus years ago.
Yeah, they have all the cool letters. They've got N's and V's.
Well, yeah, but also like GTX was did they use that with the first GeForce?
GeForce GTX, yeah.
The very first one, because that was 25 years ago.
Oh,
I can't remember if they started. When did they start using GTX, or was that
GTX
later?
might have been this 8 series.
Was that was definitely? I definitely remember when it was like when they like were getting into the like 10 series and so forth.
Let's go. It might have been the first time they reset the numbers is when they switched to GTX. When I think about it,
that might be right. And now they're on RTX, obviously, like all good letters.
Yeah. Well, like TX is a good, like you think about it. You say TX, it's easy to say.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about how easy stuff is to say. Like I stumbled on something a minute ago because it was like three words that started with S together, and that's hard to say, right?
Yeah.
So like when you're writing like I've been writing a lot of scripts for these YouTube shorts I do over at PC World lately, and I often spend time thinking about how the words are going to sound when I say them, and if they're hard and awkward, but I can stick them, then it's good and it's going to sound good and weird and interesting because people don't normally talk that way because it's hard to do. And yeah, anyway, I think about this stuff a lot.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of other cool letter combinations because most of these don't actually stand for anything.
No.
Like RDNA is a pretty good one.
I think RDNA actually does stand for something.
Does RDNA
stand for DNA?
Oh, maybe. I don't know. Wait, radion deoxyribonucleic acid?
I think it's the implication of what DNA is.
Yeah, no, I know.
It's the juice that makes it special.
Yes.
But
I can't think of too many other cool letter combinations that are in common use in tech lately.
Oh, Esquire had a fun write-up in which it ranked the letters of the English alphabet in order of stylishness and popularity.
Okay, well, not an original idea, clearly. Also, I don't think I'm funny enough to pull off a ranking of the alphabet anyway, so
well,
maybe better left to the professionals.
I don't know. Maybe we should get a guest in for that.
Sure. I came up with NXL for Nextlander. What do you think of?
NXL is good.
Okay, I thought that flowed pretty well.
Yeah, you can say it. It implies the thing that you're talking about. It's a good branding thing.
Yes. NXT was already in use. So,
why didn't you come up with something good like that for TechPod?
I don't know.
We got is BPD or WPD.
I can tell you, I have in my rclone setup, I have all of my cloud buckets kind of abbreviated.
Mm-hmm.
I use TPD for TechPod.
Yeah, that sounds like it might be. I don't want to be part of the PD.
D is not a cool letter, I'm going to say. TPD.
No, I don't think D. You don't ever want D's.
TPD sounds like it's describing some kind of disorder.
Yeah.
Maybe better not.
Yeah, no, I don't want the TechPod disease.
TPO. Also sure about it.
What about TPod?
TPod.
That sounds like maybe. I don't know.
I think you have to pronounce all the letters out one by one for this experiment to work. Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's a word that is pronounceable, then that's a different category entirely. Anyway, we've probably talked enough about this subject. Let's see. Question from Lunchbox 700. I have an Apple Watch Series 9. It's the first Apple Watch I've had. Almost a year into ownership, I still struggle with finding apps. I don't even know what I want, and the curation on the App Store is pretty minimal. What apps beyond the preloaded stuff do you use, and how do you find out about new and must-have apps? I don't go looking for Apple Watch apps at all. Like everything I use on there is a derivative of a phone app. It's all stuff that has trickled down from like my two-factor authenticator, for example, or Overcast. Or I'm trying to think what other third-party apps I use on the watch. I think
Libby has an app, maybe, or maybe I wished that Libby had an app because I was listening to an audiobook the other day.
Okay. Dude, don't even get me started about getting audio onto an Apple Watch.
You know the secret, right?
Are you talking about just to control what's playing on your phone from your watch?
Well, no, because that's an iOS feature.
Right.
I'm talking about having Libby copy the audiobook that I'm listening to onto the watch.
Yes, that's what is a nightmare.
No, it's easy. The secret is you turn off Bluetooth and then you sync it.
No, I do that. It's still a pain in the ass, though.
It is a pain in the ass.
There's still, like with Overcast, first of all, like Overcast won't sync from the phone to the watch automatically. It's supposed to, but like sometimes I have to hit refresh half a dozen times and it still doesn't go. And then I come back later and it's finally decided to sync.
How often do you go out with just the watch? I hardly ever go out with just the watch.
Like almost every day.
Oh,
because I go out to exercise. I don't want to bring my phone.
That's an interesting idea.
Which is like half the reason I got the watch, frankly, was I don't want the phone bouncing around in my pocket when I'm out trying to get some exercise.
I get that.
You have to wait. You have to finally wait for that sync to happen. Let the podcast start downloading over Bluetooth, which takes forever, and then turn off Bluetooth in the settings, and it'll fall back to Wi-Fi, which is like 10 times faster.
Yeah, the Wi-Fi is way faster.
What's Marco's the Overcast guy, right?
Marco Arment, yeah.
I've seen him say those are all like Apple API limitations. Like it's all imposed by Apple. They're very restrictive about what they will and will not let the watch do.
Well, he's also said that he also just redid Overcast, basically.
Yeah,
he rewrote the main thing. And I think that the watch thing is is part of the list of things that are going to get improved with this new infrastructure.
That may be true. Although I did have Overcast mark a podcast that I was about 10 minutes into as played.
That makes me crazy. When
I was in the middle of a long walk,
mm-hmm.
and there is no way to just single tap and tell it, this is not played. This is I was listening to this. Please let me start it over. It literally will not let you play it over again.
Oh, that sucks.
Like, you know what I had to do was load it up at the very end of the file and then sit there and hitting the 10 seconds rewind button about 5,000 times to get back to where I was.
The place that it hoses me is if you accidentally press the button, the fast forward or rewind button, it accelerates the longer you hold it down.
Oh,
I don't know if it does that on the watch, but it does that on the phone.
Interesting.
So I've blasted all the way through the end of an episode before, which stinks.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, this is kind of digressing from your question, but yeah, I don't actually know of really any watch only or watch first apps to recommend, because I'm like I said, I'm just using everything that is interfacing with my phone. I'm
opening my watch app right now so I can see what I have installed on my phone, but I don't think, like, I have 1Password and Authy, which I never use. I have Fantastical, which I have just to have complications on.
Yeah.
I have Home Assistant, which is a pain in the ass to set up and I've never used. I have the app for my car, which I do use because it's cool to start your car from your watch. It feels like James Bond shit.
That is pretty cool.
I have Paprika 3 because it lets me do timers. It lets me show timers that are running in the food app. But since I always use Paprika on the iPad, it doesn't matter. And then I have a bazillion things here that I could install, but I never have. So yeah. The only time I install an app for something is if I want the complication on the watch face.
Right. Yeah. The watch is really kind of a utility device for me. Although I do use the Apple News app on there, just like if I'm standing in the kitchen waiting for some water to boil or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll just stand there and read the headlines on my watch because I don't carry my phone around in my pocket all day at home.
If I'm someplace without my phone and I have 5 minutes to kill, I think about the pointlessness of everything.
That works too.
Existential dread fills that time for me.
Ironically, I've kind of embraced that sort of raw dogging philosophy when I am out with my phone, like more and more these days. Like if I'm on BART or the bus or something, I just kind of like look out the window and take in the sights rather than sit there on my phone, because it just feels like at some point I started feeling, I don't know if guilty is the right word, but I just started having reservations about constantly just having my nose buried in my phone everywhere I go all the time. You know, it's just like, I feel like I should maybe be a little more aware of my surroundings and just kind of like take the world in.
I was on BART tonight and I was looking around at people. And I made unfortunate eye contact with a lot of people, and I'm going to go back to looking at the phone.
Fair.
Exclusively.
That is fair. Anyway, I mentioned the Apple News app on there. It only shows you like the most recent 7 headlines, and there's no way to change that. So
do you have to pay to get that, or is it just the freebies?
No, but it's just summaries. You can't read the article. It's just all you can do is bookmark it for reading later on an actual device.
That would make me crazy.
Right. So I was looking for something like that that has a little more actual meat to it, like a news app on the watch, but I haven't been able to find anything.
I don't want to read my watch. I just want it to tell me when people are texting me.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's just the rare occasion that I'm just like in the other room for 5 minutes.
I use the walkie-talkie thing a lot with the kiddo.
Does that just go over iCloud?
It goes over the internet. It basically, I think it sends a secret iMessage that doesn't display, that says, "Hey, you want to open a point-to-point connection?" And then you have a press to talk channel.
That's neat.
I wish it was on the phone too. It's annoying that it's just on the watch.
Yeah. All right. Here's a kind of a somewhat slightly related question from Teal. What's your most successful way of discovering new music? I'll let you answer this because I don't really listen to a lot of new music.
Oh, so I have 2 really good ways. I have an 11-year-old daughter, and like teen pop is pretty good right now.
Okay.
I don't know if you're aware, but like there's a thing happening with like female pop vocalists. They're quite good.
Okay.
And then I have a friend, Mike, who's really good at music stuff, and Frank are also good at music stuff. And they, shout outs to Mike and Frank.
Okay.
They often share music in a Discord, which I then go and add to my Apple Music, and then I listen to it. And sometimes I like it and sometimes I don't.
All right.
And if you do that for a little while, then your programmatic feeds on Apple Music or Spotify or Tidal, I guess, I don't know, start recommending other stuff that's like that. So it's pretty good.
Sure. So children or friends or
Children
both.
and friends.
Yeah. All right.
It's good to have a friend who's really into music.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
About that. Who's good in teen pop these days?
Well, I mean, Taylor Swift, real popular right now, but like Olivia Rodrigo's pretty good.
Okay,
Sabrina Carpenter's pretty good.
Those were two of my guesses. So, I mean, granted, that's all just from time spent on Twitter, but
Charlie XCX did a fucking great album this summer.
Yeah.
SZA had some bangers earlier this year, I guess. I don't know. Time's immutable at this point.
Sure.
But yeah, like it's good stuff.
Yeah. All right. Here's a quick little tip from last week from Desmo 001 regarding the sideways prong. You remember we talked about there's
a bazillion North American prongs that I didn't know about.
Yes.
And also we all have our plugs upside down.
Oh,
yeah. They're all supposed to be not a face. They're supposed to be the two down is what the standard says.
wait, really?
That's what somebody linked it on Discord. So I can only assume it's true.
This entire nation is out of spec then, because I have never seen them placed that way.
If somebody put prongs in for me upside down, I would make them flip them because it would look weird.
Yep. All right. Well, here's an explanation from Desmo 001. Normal outlets can handle 15 amps, but the outlets with the horizontal prong can supply 20 amps. If a device requires 20 amps and won't run on 15, the plug will have the sideways prong, so you can only plug it into a 20 amp outlet. The wiring determines what amperage the outlet can be, 14 gauge for 15 amps and 12 gauge for 20 amps. Smaller gauge means larger wire. So you can't just put a 20 amp breaker and call it good. Hope that helps.
I am going to say I have a lot of 20 amp breakers in my house, and I don't have any of those weird sideways plugs.
Huh. Interesting. All right. Well,
yeah.
We're prepared at least.
I mean, look, I can do all sorts of stuff. It's also worth mentioning that last month, or I guess it was last month now, when we were talking about volts and amps through wall warts and what would make the magic smoke come out, I got it backwards.
Wait, which part?
Well,
did you burn somebody's house down?
Or amps, if it was too high, would make the magic smoke come out, but I can't remember what I said now.
Okay, I was waiting for something ominous. This sounded ominous, like you got some core piece of electrical information backwards and somebody burned their house down or something.
No. Just about 15 people wrote in, and it's been a while, so I meant to put it at the start of the episode, and I forgot until we started talking about this.
Okay.
But yeah, the idea that all of our plugs are upside down and the ground is supposed to be at the top is shocking to me, and I can't even cope with that.
Yeah. Okay. Question from Voltage X. Appropriate username.
Oh, this is probably bad.
This has probably been asked before, but what note-taking and knowledge management things do you use? Obsidian, OneNote, important do not lose.txt. I am not too far off from important do not lose.txt, except I use SimpleNote. I've been using SimpleNote for extremely forever. So my to-do list is just a text file stored in SimpleNote, basically, which at least it's cross-platform, but I've kind of been meaning to get off of SimpleNote for a while now because I'm kind of surprised they're still around, and I keep waiting for my whole...
I think it's open source, isn't it?
SimpleNote? No, I don't think so.
I felt like it. I feel like it's an open source thing that lives on top of, because isn't it Joplin a SimpleNote client too?
That may be the case, but SimpleNote itself is a commercial service. Like, they are still a company.
Oh.
They're part of Automatic, apparently. With you know, boy,
WordPress.
Or we're not even going to get into that, are we?
I don't think we should.
That's probably.
I know just enough about that to get myself into real trouble and not know what I'm talking about. So
the ongoing drama in the WordPress community is probably a whole episode unto itself.
Yeah.
But I also am not really qualified to speak to it. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe SimpleNote will not go away. I've just I don't know what their business model is.
They charge for syncing if you don't use Dropbox to sync.
Okay. So anyway, I've been storing text in Simple Note since 2010, I think 2011, and it's still there. So I guess that's something. But yeah, I have thought about Obsidian or Notion, right? Is the other big one, right?
So I use Notion about, I don't know. We talked about this a long time ago before this podcast even. I used to use Simple Note, and it ate a shitload of notes one time on a bad sync and just wiped them out. And that was the end of my relationship with Simple Note. I've gone through all of them. I used Evernote. I used Notion. I used Obsidian. I think Obsidian's pretty is of the problem I have is that fundamentally I want something that I can use with the iPad and the pencil and draw and write on, that will sync to a Windows PC. And as near as I can tell, that just doesn't exist.
Yes, that is the pain of being in the Apple ecosystem, but still being a frequent Windows user, is that there's a ton of stuff that is kind of just works across all Apple devices. And if only it would also just work to your Windows machine, everything would be perfect.
Yeah, I really like what is it, Freenote? That thing that they do, or free. Can't remember what it's called. It's an iPad only. Maybe it's on both now, but it's an iPad app that you basically get infinite canvas to draw on, and it's fabulous.
That sounds neat.
So yeah, and it syncs across all your stuff through iCloud. Blah blah blah. Really really easy. But there's no viewers on Windows, and there's no tool that lets you use it on Windows, so it's useless to me.
Yep. I don't know if that's really an answer to that question, but there you go.
I mean, what I will say is, we used Confluence at Stray Bombay. I used Google Keep with Foo. We used that to share notes and documentation across the company. I really like Notion a lot. Their free version is pretty good and fully featured enough to use for real personal note taking. But if you want to blow it out and use it for like everything from task management and like deliverables and stuff like that, and have like waterfall charts and the whole deal, with like nested multiple steps of finishing and requirements and all that stuff, like you would with Jira or Trello or something like that. It's really good. I also kind of like Trello for note taking. Honestly, Trello is quite good. And you do the cards and put like each topic on the card, but it's definitely not made for that. I wouldn't mind having a thing that is like Trello, that is a note taking stack, basically.
Interesting. I never thought about using Trello that way. You may have just convinced me to give Notion a try, because I assume it's got some built-in facility for a proper to-do list, like check off type functionality.
Yeah, well, so it's basically a wiki, and it's all like typing based. So when you want to make a new page off of a page, you just type /page.
I like it.
And then it takes you to the new page, and the link from the old page becomes the title. The title of the new page becomes the link from the old page. And you can kind of organize them and move them around. You can make task lists. You can put dates on the tasks, stuff like that. So like, yeah, it works pretty well. There's it's weird sometimes. And it's definitely like a programmer kind of like software development productivity tool, not necessarily like a grocery list tool, but it's quite good. Honestly, the other thing I do is when we do meal planning in Paprika, I really use their grocery shopping functionality a lot, because you tell it what you just always keep stock of, like sugar and flour and eggs and stuff like that. And then it'll generate a list of, and sometimes the quantities are stupid, but it's like you can eyeball that, and you know that you need to get basil and bread and whatever else.
Sure. Sounds useful.
Yeah, it's good. Paprika is pretty good.
I have been finding I'm keeping even that crappy little text to-do list has been helping me tremendously in getting things done lately.
Oh, it's like, as soon as you have more than you can keep track of at a time, it reduces my mental load a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Like I've always kind of prided myself on not having to take notes or keep track of things. Like when I reviewed games, I never took notes on anything. It was all just from memory.
Yeah.
But at some point I've got enough to do at this point these days that I just I cannot keep everything in my head at this point.
Well, for me, it's just that I would rather, I didn't often forget things, but I would much rather spend my time thinking about what's next than worrying that I'd forgotten something, which is what always was the case. So
sure.
It is not a sign of weakness to write things down. If you don't write things down, they don't happen.
No, in my case, it was just I was too lazy to want to manage it. I didn't want to have to, it felt like more work, but not doing the work makes things harder.
And when we were doing editorial, like straight editorial jobs, I often would move straight from one thing to the next. So it wasn't like I had like I knew that I had 5 things hanging over me, but they were 5 well-established things and they were on a list that somebody else was keeping track of.
Right.
So I didn't have to have like sub deliverables or whatever.
Right.
And it's life's more complicated now.
That's yes, for sure. I mean, like, not coincidentally, a lot of the kind of busy work, administrative stuff I'm talking about has to do with part owning 2 companies and all of the tiny little tasks that endlessly pop up around that.
There are a million one-off things.
Yeah. All right. Not that I'm complaining, to be fair. It still beats working for a giant company.
Yeah.
All right. I should have rolled this into the electricity talk earlier, but I'm going to attempt to answer this. Roland Static wrote in. I occasionally see the recommendation that you replace surge protectors every so many years because their protective ability wears out or something like that. I have probably 10 to 12 surge protectors in my house, and they're all at least 5 years old. It would cost me more time and money than I would like to replace all of these. Do normal people using surge protectors under normal conditions really need to regularly toss out surge protectors? Or is this just the sort of thing that only particularly sensitive and fussy people should care about? Please keep in mind in your answer that I am absolutely not buying 10 new surge protectors no matter what you say.
Okay. So the reason you do this is that there's a maximum number of joules that the thing that makes it a surge protector can absorb, right?
Yeah, and you can find that in the specs. I think I may have talked about that a little bit, like in my parents' basement, like the nice surge protector they had got flooded out and they're probably going to replace, or maybe when I bought that. Anyway, long story short, like when I bought that surge protector for them, I found in the specs how many joules the surge protector was rated to absorb. And my understanding has always been for X number of joules that are absorbed into the surge protector, it loses that much capacity to continue absorbing, right? Like, I mean, it's common sense, right? Based on those specs, is that the more if it's only rated to absorb so many joules, then once it's done that, it's going to lose its ability to absorb surges.
That's my understanding as well. But I mean, the real answer to this question is, what do you use surge protectors for?
Right.
Like a lot of people,
like, where do you live and what are the conditions there?
Well, but even more. Okay. Yeah. So if you live in Florida where there's a lot of lightning and storms and there's surges through the power system multiple times a week, sometimes, versus living where we live in Northern California, where we have maybe one thunderstorm a year, you're in a different threat zone. But the real thing you need to look at is what you have plugged into your surge protectors, because a lot of people these days use a surge protector as a way to turn one plug into multiple plugs, and the shit you're plugging into it doesn't matter, right? Like if you torch a $5 iPhone charger, it's no big deal. Like, go nuts. If you have a $20,000 home theater setup hooked into a surge protector, I would probably replace that one every 3 or 4 years.
Yes.
Mainly because if you buy a nice surge protector, you also get insurance for surge destruction on that hardware, and you know that's worth $50.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like my computer has a currently updated surge protector plugged in, but that's pretty much it. Like the TV's cheap to replace at this point.
Well, yours is because it's very old.
Yeah. Yeah, but like
it depends on if you've got a nice high end OLED or something. I would definitely still put that on a good surge protector. Yeah,
but if you have a $400 Hisense, then who cares? You're gonna replacing the surge protectors every 5 years will cost more than the TV's worth 3 times in.
Yeah. The only stuff I've got plugged into good surge protectors around here is all my computer stuff, TV, game consoles, like stuff I really don't want to lose.
Yeah.
Like even these monitors and camera and stuff on my desk are not plugged into, like they're plugged into old monoprice ones that are, I don't know how many years old.
One of the things I've been told is if you have the kind of surge protector that has a fuse in it, you can just replace the fuse and that solves the problem. I haven't had a surge protector with a fuse in like 15 years, probably.
Yeah, the little bit. I tried to research this, and there are a lot of like conflicting pieces of information out there, or like, you want to hear it from a stronger authority than, I won't name any names, but some of the sites that come up with this information I don't necessarily want to trust immediately. But I think the ones with fuses are just power strips and not surge protectors. Is that correct, or do I have that wrong?
I don't know,
because like I found a guide on UL, like no less than what does that stand for? Underwriters Laboratory.
Underwriters Laboratory, yeah.
Like the UL, where the UL logo that you see on every electronics device you own is assuming it's actually been tested. Like they have a page on their site that is kind of a good surge protector explainer, but they just happen to not address the subject of when should you replace your surge protector. So I can't quite comment there. But I thought what they said was that a power strip without surge protection has a fuse you can replace. I could be wrong.
Maybe. The other thing that so it's interesting because Consumer Reports doesn't actually have a recommendation about how often you need to replace these, which I was kind of surprised by. I expected them to, but they do say if you live someplace where there's a whole boatload of lightning, like Central Florida, you can get a whole home surge protector that goes on your breaker box and costs $500.
Interesting.
And that might be the better alternative.
Yeah, actually, that's not the worst suggestion, I guess. $500 for a whole house is not actually that bad.
Yeah. Also, UPSs serve a similar purpose, and the batteries in them die over time. But I don't know what the surge protection situation is there.
Yeah, now that you mention it, my Cyber Power is coming up on 5 years in January. It's probably time to check the battery in that thing. I understand the battery costs about as much as the whole unit.
The battery is the cost. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yep.
I think I mentioned this before, but that nice trip light that I had my parents get, and I actually have one here on my TV and consoles too, has a light on it, a surge protection light.
But you're not supposed to trust those, right?
Well, I don't know. You tell me.
I've always been told that you're not supposed to trust those.
I did hear, I mean, we talked about last week, I got a couple of comments from like electricians, people that work on stuff professionally that said they trust Trip Light pretty well. So okay. I would hope that light is somewhat trustworthy. I mean, yes. Is it valid to question whether the people who have an interest in selling you more surge protectors are honest about whether your surge protector is still working or not? I'm sure.
So this is a guide from an electric company that says, hey, the lights will tell you when they need to be replaced. And if it's an expensive one, they're useful. And if it's a cheap one, they're not.
Okay. What is the cutoff for expensive? Because that Trip Light was about $50.
They do not say. I would think a Trip Light probably counts as an expensive one. I think a cheap one is one that is $5 at Walmart or $10 at Walmart.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to watch that light and see where it ends up in some number of years. And if the light goes out, I will buy another one.
I mean, for me, it's the difference, like the things that, like, I'm not worried about things that plug in through an AC to DC adapter, like a laptop charger or something like that, because that charger will eat the charge and not pass it on to the computer. And honestly, the computers aren't plugged in all that often anymore. So yeah, I don't worry. I don't worry as much about electricity frying my stuff as I used to.
Yeah. I just had the fear of God put in me from all the thunderstorms growing up in the summer, because it was we used to unplug stuff. Yes, it was like practically a daily occurrence in the afternoon to have a short thunderstorm every day in the summer. Yeah, and B, it was Brad, turn off that damn video game. Well, unplug. Yes, it was all right. Time to unplug everything in the house.
We had lightning hit our aerial one time and fried our air conditioner.
Yikes.
So we didn't have air conditioning for years and years and years after that. It made a real strong impact.
That's no good.
No, it was hot there too.
That sucks.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do a couple more very quick ones as we wrap this thing up.
Sounds good.
Doot. I've had a lot of people scoff at my choice of drinking instant coffee. I've always defended that even the cheap grocery store branded instant coffee is a lot better than it used to be. Would Brad say instant coffee is good now? So I had, I think it's little Nescafe packets. I believe it's Nescafe is the brand that we had out there. And then we also had a little canister of Starbucks dark roast instant.
I was going to say the Starbucks instant stuff I've had is as good as Starbucks gets. I think they over roast their coffee generally. Yeah, I wish we had like the medium, because I also think that their dark roast is a little too dark or too roasty. But but I wish I had tried one of the lighter ones. But yeah, it tasted like coffee to me, basically. So I'm going to talk about this because it's been more than 10 years and I don't care anymore. When we went to NASA, to Johnson Space Center, to talk about food in outer space with David Chang and Tracy Desjardins, one of the things we got to taste was the coffee that they serve on ISS. And because you can't mix things in space, each astronaut's coffee preference gets mixed up into one of their drinking pouches, and then they just add hot water to it when it's time to drink. So like they put dehydrated milk and sugar and instant coffee in to make them the desired strength. And we got to try a bunch of different people's coffees, which was fun. The coffee they used after doing a lot of kind of gentle leaning to get it out of the people that work there, is Hula Girl. Because at the time, it was the only instant coffee I'd ever had that didn't taste terrible. And it was quite good. It was a really nice mellow roast, Kona, I believe, made in America, of course, because it's NASA. And yeah, quite good. Highly recommend it. I take it camping when I go camping and don't take coffee stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah, but there are a lot more instant, like the stuff that Starbucks makes in the little dissolve in water pouches is quite good. Like Taster's Choice still sucks, but what are you going to do? It's the same stuff they've made for 50 years. I'm not going to say the Nescafe is amazing either, but in a pinch, I kind of didn't care. Look, it gets the job done. Yeah, when you had other stuff to worry about than coffee. Yeah. Although I still once in a while, we still got a bunch of it left. I will have some around here occasionally. I have not been drinking coffee as a rule lately, but if the mood strikes, like, it's fine. It serves. Yep, that's what I want out of a cup of coffee. It's fine. Is instant coffee just dehydrated coffee, kind of scraped into crystals? Is that all it is? That's what they brew the coffee and then they run it through the dehydrator until it's just the crystallized fats and solubles. Yep. All right. Yeah. Okay. Last question from Try. As a non-American from New Zealand, what's the deal with candy corn? It's not something we have here, and it's common enough in media that I've always wondered about it because I have no idea what it tastes like. I assume it's like a Tic Tac in texture and mouthfeel. Well, so candy corn, or as the Native Americans call it, candy maize. Oh boy. Is a product of the North American biosphere. No, it's not like a Tic Tac at all. Tic Tacs are, for people who have not had Tic Tacs, are hard. It's hard candy. I mean, it's basically a breath mint. A Tic Tac, like it's not something you could even chew. It's too hard to chew. Like it just. Oh, you could chew them. Well, you can break it with your teeth. It's more like you're breaking it with your teeth into powder rather than actually chewing it as such. But candy corn is firm but soft and kind of grainy. I would describe it as waxy and grainy simultaneously. Yes, waxy and grainy. Those are the words. And it's just sweet with like a little hint of vanilla almost. Sure. Yeah. Maybe corn syrup flavor more than anything. Yeah, that checks out. Yeah. Yeah. It's not very good. No, I mean, I don't hate it. Some people, I feel like, have kind of turned it into a personality trait to hate candy corn. Yeah. It's become like the anti-bacon. Remember how popular bacon used to be? Yes. Boy, I'm glad that's done. Yes. You know what I do hate is the pumpkins that are like that stuff, because they make those in much larger pumpkin shapes. Huh. And the candy corn is kind of a manageable size. Plus you can take a whole fistful of that and chew it up and make a big just sugar wad that's in your mouth. True. It's kind of gross and also a little compelling. Uh-huh. But the pumpkins are gross. The pumpkins, the ratio of sugar to waxy stuff is bad. Ugh. Yeah. And it's not what you want. Yeah. Not that I'm like eating a lot of Halloween candy these days, but I feel like candy corn is probably not as common as it was a fixture in the 80s as a child. I will tell you, like, if somebody gave my kid candy corn, I probably wouldn't let her eat it because I'd be afraid it has nobody's going to put drugs on your Halloween candy, but like maybe the candy corn. But also it would be loose probably and like unwrapped, which is our rule. Like you don't get to eat loose candy. Sure. I think candy corn, there was one house that gave fig bars and pirate's booty one year. Pirate's booty? You know, you've never had the booty? It's like cheese puffs, but they're slightly healthier because they're baked instead of fried. Oh. Yeah, it's in the snack aisle. They're white cheddar usually instead of yellow cheddar. Okay. So it's not like a Cheeto. It's classy. Named after a pirate's ass. Of course. After dark. It's after dark. Yeah. That house we don't go to anymore because my daughter was like, I'm not wasting time with the fig bar people. Fig bars are all right. It's a dead stop. It takes like 6 minutes. You could hit another house that actually gives something good in that time. Pass. Yeah, pass. One person gave a toothbrush a few years ago. We don't go there anymore either. Fuck those people. They're bad. I mean, probably says something about where I'm at in my life. Like, I'm like, man, free toothbrush. Hell yeah. It wasn't a great toothbrush. And also it's like, You're trying to counter program Halloween. You've already lost. Just don't turn on the light if you're going to waste people's time with a toothbrush.
That's fair, man. I've never had this experience. That sounds really fun. Like the area. I assume you were the same way. Like growing up, like I didn't live in the middle of nowhere, but the houses were not really dense enough and not walkable enough. Like there was not the experience of just trick or treating 100 houses in a night or whatever.
No, we would just go to we went to the last neighborhood that my parents lived in right when I was born before they moved out into the country. And we would walk around to like the 6 neighbors that they knew. And that was pretty much it.
Right. Yeah. It was kind of like that. I guess there are housing developments that now that I think about it that we could have driven to, but I guess that's kind of weird to go.
Look, if you want to come down and get the experience, we have a full blown, like it's like an 80s like teen movie. Thousands of kids walking around in costumes, going from door to door in the one neighborhood that they give the good candy bars.
That sounds like the intro to some like 80s horror anthology Halloween movie, like Trick or Treat or Creep Show or whatever.
It's like the episode of Stranger Things where they go out on Halloween, or like the beginning of Aliens versus Predator 2, which I think also is set on Halloween. I can't remember, but yeah, it's pretty good. It's a little chaotic, and
it just sounds festive though.
It is very festive, and like I will probably put on, like last year we went down there for the first time and I didn't put on a costume, and I felt like I was a jackass for not putting on a costume. So
yeah,
probably get out my dude shirt and go as Lebowski or something. Yes, I don't know.
Yes, just keep it simple.
Yeah,
keep something in the drawer that is instant costume.
Yeah, I don't have a pair of. I never was able to find a pair of jellies big enough for me. But other than that, the Lebowski costumes there. Maybe I had bowling shoes. Anyway,
did you hear there's a massive cocoa shortage?
No, that's bad.
We should wrap this thing up. But apparently, chocolate candy is super expensive this year because there's some cocoa prices are at a 47-year high. Says this Food and Wine article.
Is this because the climate changes?
I don't know if it's because of climate change, but apparently it's due to like several successive bad harvests, I believe.
Oh boy,
if I'm not mistaken.
That's bad. Well, the candy was really fucking expensive this year. I did notice that. I just assumed it was normal price gouging. No,
this says explicitly it's not inflation that's causing chocolate-based candy to be insanely expensive right now.
Yeah, it was a lot. Like I know that coffee production just in general is declining despite increased planting because of obvious stuff.
Cool.
So, getting clean now probably makes sense. It'll save you some money in the end.
Yep. Just get used to chicory.
No thanks.
On that note.
Yeah. Brad, this is the part of the show where we thank everybody for listening. Thank you, listeners.
Thank you.
If you would like to learn how to support the podcast, this is a listener supported show. We're not here without you. You don't get any Tech Pod After Darks. I don't know if it was a good idea to record this when I'm tired at the end of a long day, but here we are. If you want to find out how to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/techpod. And again, it's patreon.com/techpod, where for $5,
only $5.
That's like a Twix and a half at this point with this global chocolate shortage.
That's right.
Which chocolate could really be in a Twix? It can't be that much.
That's just like the coating.
Mostly like dust.
It's probably like a teaspoon, maybe a little more than that.
Pressed chocolate sweepings. Anyway, for $5 a month, you can get access to the Discord. You get access to the monthly patron exclusive episode where we talked about stuff and things. We talked about resuscitating my dead LG monitor. We talked about it was a wide ranging conversation this month.
You talked about pumping 19 volts into the EEPROM on that monitor to try to bring it back to life, like some kind of mad scientist.
I'm really curious to see how it goes. Anyway. We'll let you know next week. Maybe that's the cold open next week.
Yeah. Talked about Heir to the Empire, some Star Wars stuff.
Oh yeah. Shout outs to the AMCA folks.
Yeah.
I started The Last Command or the other day. I'm excited to get into it.
I found my copy of Dark Force Rising when I was home.
There you go.
It survived the water, so I've still got it ready to go.
There you go. But yeah, you can go to patreon.com/techpod and sign up there. We appreciate everybody's support, but we especially appreciate our executive producer tier support, including Andrew Slosky, Jordan Lippett, Bunny Fiend, Twinkle Twinkie, David Allen, James Kamek, and Pantheon, makers of the HS3 high-speed 3D printer. Thank you all so much.
Yes, thank you.
And that will do it for us this month. If you don't want to subscribe to the Patreon, go leave a review on iTunes or Pocket Casts or YouTube, I guess. I don't know. We're on YouTube. I added a new service. Somebody asked me the other day, hey, why are you on this service that I'd never heard of before? I was like, you know what? I don't know. And I added us to that service. So we're on that service now.
All right.
What service was it? I have no idea.
That's the life of a podcaster.
There are so many podcast services now. But we're there, and if we're not on the one that you like, let us know. We'll like, unless they have terrible terms, I'll add us to it. We don't care.
Yeah.
But yeah, we appreciate all the support. We are grateful we get to do this every week.
Yes, we sure are.
And we will be back next week with another edition of the Tech Pod. We will see you then. Bye, everybody. Bye.